found. And the reason why I'm saying it's dear to my heart is because we're going to compare it, or we're going to bring up comparisons and stories from bush life, hashtag bush life, where we're talking about the forest, we're talking about wilderness, and it comes from a place of men don't like to ask for directions. Men don't like to ask for help. And when I say, and again, yes, there are anomalies and men might be saying, oh, I don't have a problem asking for help. We're not talking about Waze or Google Maps. We're talking about really where there's a machismo, there's a bravado about it in general. And if I'm entirely wrong, I stand corrected, but this is a general observation. And as we keep saying, we are a few men talking to all men. We're not talking on behalf of all men. So if you're that anomaly, forgive me, but we're talking lost and found. And to have that conversation, we have two of the best, I would say, in Trinidad and Tobago to direct us in the best way when it comes to bush life. To my right, David Douglas, wilderness expert, also a paramedic. 20 years ago, I believe it is, you were telling me, he was backpacking, of course, married a Trini, and then the rest is history. But we'll hear more about that one. To his right, Captain Valance Rambarat, the term captain given to him by the Hunters Search and Rescue Team. That's, they say all heroes don't wear capes, and this gentleman certainly is one of those, and we thank you for that service. So for this show, I am periodically going to address you as well as Captain. I think you've deserved that title. And to his right, Johan Sayudike, yes, in a different seat today, behavior change consultant. Glad to have you back. You missed a session, but that's okay. That's okay. Lost and found. I want to. That's a topic because we have to put something at the CG or the lower third, the CG bar. But really and truly, we know what we are talking about. Men, in general, at some point, and it mightn't be a particular thing like a direction, like to go somewhere, but in general, we have.
I think. And of course, this we discussing. I think in general. So let me go from a developmental point of view, right? Boys generally learn by experience, right? That's how males generally learn. So like we say from age 0 to about 20, 21, right? Abstract thinking develops earlier in women than men. Because, sometimes you'd say women mature, quote unquote, faster than boys. But boys, we need to experience. So sometimes. Yeah, you need to burn to learn. If you don't burn, it's not real to you. So I hear what my parents say, I hear what my elders say, but if I don't actually touch it and get burned or get shock or whatever it is, it wouldn't actually be real. So I'm using that first in terms of, like we say, psychology, right?
So you have to get lost to find the place.
Yeah, right. You got to get lost. And if you find yourself, then it sticks, right? Tell me your thoughts.
No, I agree 100%. Burn to learn. I'm a burn to learn fella. I have 3 boys. I think 2 of the 3 of them are burn to learn boys. I agree 100%. And I think it builds character.
Yeah, and I think that's how habit and character is built in boys. And generally, men has that bravado about them. And it goes back to the fact that the world is there to be explored. And wait not for men, we would not have advanced this far in terms of the development of the world. We're talking about exploration for oil, for gas. It's a very risky business. And I think that's the nature of men. And as an educator myself, because Robert, I had my career in education, you find that as a classroom teacher, you find the boys tend to be more energetic about being outdoors and doing things than the girls. And that really has been my focus as I move through my education career, because I understand what it is to train boys in various fields, whether it's sports, whether it's outdoor activities, over time. And this is a reality we have to face, whether in fact our boys confined to homes with devices, or are they given that opportunity to get out there and explore Trinidad and Tobago and swim and jump and run? And that's something that bothers me. And with respect to being lost and found, as we grow older, we remain more or less the same way. That's how we learn. And I agree with you.
We're lost most of the time.
Yeah. So I would tell you about Bravado in a short story. We recently had a lost hunter. And he thought, that he could have explored the forest alone. It was his first time in South Trinidad, and it took us 72 hours to get him. And that was sheer bravado. And I think, if you're not sure about where you are, you're going to a forest for the first time, you need to keep in touch with the others who know the area, and then then travel beyond after a few, times in the forest. But he did it on his first occasion.
And you're talking my language, even. I want to bring you guys in for that, because that is, piquing my interest. Hiking, pickleball, anything. Most extreme sports. Well, not pickleball, but that's a a passion of mine still. When we talk about that bravado, in the fraternity, or just people, men who want to go there, is asking for that help or that guidance somehow going to make you appear weak? Is that the feeling? So if that hunter came and said, "Hey, I'm going to the bush. Can you do the right things, whether it be telling the police, telling certain people, doing things that might mark the bark of the tree," it may come across as, "I don't know what I'm doing," and men come from a perspective. I mean, I see it all the time in the bush. People, "Oh, I don't need your help. I don't need you to tell me what to do."
I could go it alone and that type of thing, but Robert, that's true. Remember, I manage a team. Count the amount of testosterone plus energy bundle I have to deal with when we go on a search.
Right.
And I have to be the calm one, the one who remains calm and grounded in the science of searching. And I will have to say, do you have your GPS? You need to have it. Are you wearing the appropriate gear? You need to have it, because they will just take off, and they're experienced, but they will just take off. Sometimes they forget the little the safety. They forget about safety, and they try to get the mission completed. And I have to step in and say, "Listen, gentlemen, you need to get this, you need to get that, you need to have this rope on your back to go in there to get that task done." And you're quite right. It is natural for men to go out on their own. That is where the lone wolf theory comes in. And most men will eventually want to go out there alone. That is how we are built. But it is very important in doing so that you are also knowledgeable about what's out there and what's the safest way to get around while you're out in the green environment.
But David, I'd cut you off there. So.
Well, I think we also have to understand that no man is more powerful than Mother Nature. If you don't plan and you go into Mother Nature, I'm a very good swimmer. As a matter of fact, I always make the joke, I'm a better swimmer than most fish. But when I'm out in that ocean, that is a totally different thing, right? All my boys, including my daughter, spearfish. I've taught them how to do it. We're not good at it, but we enjoy it. But you have to understand, I'm right beside them. We all know how to swim well. If you're not prepared, and we always carry a buoy or a life, something to just in case. You never know what you're going to get in. And if it's rough, I don't go out there. I'm a technical expert in the woods, but you can look at any profession. Look at the firefighters. Those are professional, healthy people, and they still die. If you're not prepared and you don't understand, you're going to be in trouble. Things
could still happen. Yes. And you touched on a real good point there, David, because in my experience, it's always the persons who are most experienced, right, are the ones that avoid certain things because they know.
Yes, you're quite correct, Robert. You're quite correct, and that is where experience comes in, because you've learned. We've all learned to learn. I am in outdoors for my entire life. That this I'm an amateur. Started off as an amateur field naturalist, not like Dan Jagannath and they who are the real field naturalist, but just an amateur, and began exploring forests whenever I got the opportunity. And that has caused me to be very experienced, but I've seen things. I had a friend who lost his son on a hike to Paria, and that wasn't a nice thing. And as you know, recently we went to get another hike up in the Madamas area just about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And because of this built-up experience, I know that it is very important to be safe out there and not to take chances whatsoever.
So how in life do we connect that to, not just in the bush, but in terms of the way you said you lead a team, and it's a lot of testosterone, a lot of bravado, a lot of cojones, people just there waiting to go. How do you channel that? How do you shepherd that so that because you don't want to be a wet blanket. You're going on a hike. You don't want to tell people, oh, watch this and watch that and constantly do this, because you also want them to have fun. Yeah. But at the same time, you are also aware through experience that can happen.
Exactly.
You're not particularly looking for a mapapi, but there's a chance that a mapapi can be there, and people veer off and say, oh, I'm just gonna go to the go and take a whiz or something, and they need to be aware, but you don't want to be that person who goes, hey, and cause anxiety. You want them to have a good time. But so how do you manage?
What helps, Robert, with our team is basically, I didn't mention that David Douglas is our personal trainer. We're lucky to have him. It comes at a tremendous cost, but that's the investment we have to make to protect our members. And I think one of the best ways is to put them in the classroom with David and let David give them the real experiences and also the risk management strategies. And that has worked immensely for our team. They know the risk involved. And even if on a hike, and we have to do a river crossing, Robert, I will do a simple demonstration of how to cross. It may be about 3 ways to do one river crossing. And I will sit down or step back and watch them cross. Some may fall, you grab their hands and you bring them. And you're quite right, it must be fun. Because if it isn't fun, there's no enjoyment in it, and sometimes a little slip. Nothing wrong with it. We, as the experienced ones, we will grab your hand and pull you out.
But is it like you said, David, or even Valance, to answer this? Like, for example, you see on these shows where they tell you hurricane is coming or forest fire, and people think, oh no, I'm staying put. I can handle it. Almost like crossing a river. Your boss has trips like, what was the big deal? I could cross that river. Would you tell me about all of these different measures until it actually happens? And then you see, for example, the hurricane, where you see Coast Guard or the fire service has to now come and risk their life to rescue you when you should have taken the necessary precautions. It's almost like crossing the river.
Yeah.
People don't understand how fast the river comes down, flash flood.
But I think, I honestly believe this as a foreigner. You guys really do believe God is a Trinity, we are very blessed. One of the reasons I don't ever want to leave this island, this is a very blessed island, twin island, and we don't have natural disasters the way we do around the world. And I honestly believe we've gotten away where we've become quite blasé, if you will. It's not going to happen to us, so why prepare? And I think one of the most important things you can do is prepare. If you're going to go in the woods, you should know a little bit about what's out there. You can take a course. I think every human being should have a first aid course, because first aid is one of those skills that everybody needs sometime in their life. And nobody says, 5 minutes from now I'm going to have a heart attack. It just happens. And then you're caught off guard. The river's the same way. You get about to go. My wife and I were camping in Shark River. I hear, what is that? I've never heard this before. I never saw no rain, beautiful day, but it rained in the mountains. And literally right in front of us, there's like a tidal wave of dirty sticks. You were in that river, you were in trouble. Just like that, it happened. If you're not prepared, how are you gonna, you have to be prepared to go in the woods.
So taken from what you just said, you're an expert, and even at that point, you were fortunate to be on the bank. Correct. At that point, because even you, nice day, all the rest of it, nice calm river at that point, didn't see that coming.
Thankfully, nobody was in the river.
So how do you prepare for something like that, and eventually.
Well, I think one of the most important things any human being can do is stay fit, right? If you are in a situation like that, you're obviously going to be more likely to get out alive if you're healthy, if you're fit, if you can move, if you can get away, if you can run. And that's one of the things, and as you get older, that's way more difficult to do. But I think if you stay fit, that's one of the key things. And if you are educated if you're going to go in the woods, you should be educated what's out there.
What I could add to that also, and I think what I've noticed in my personal life, and even for men in general, all of us men have an instinct. Right? Some people call it a spiritual guide, the higher self, the Holy Spirit. Everybody have a different, the universe, everybody have a different sense of what it is. But all of us have an instinct. And some of us could be skill, could be training. Some of us follow it more than others, right? In Trinidad, we have this thing when you know you're supposed to do something and you don't do it, you say, well, I had a mind, something tell me I'm supposed to X, Y, Z, right? But that is a real thing, right? And I can tell that because I've tested it scientifically where all the gut feelings, I follow it 100%, see what happens, and I also do it with other people, and it always has led them correctly. So let's just say you're asking how to prepare. If you hear a sound, right, in the bush, or let's just say any situation, you go to your job and you normally see something, but you see something strange, that's a red flag immediately. But some people, right, because you're not in any habit of it, and I would say especially as men, to be able to follow that, and I think following the instinct is an important part of it.
Correct.
As we talk about lost and found, one thing I wanted to bring up, and you had mentioned, perhaps, or you started off with it, Johanse, with this whole burn to learn, where. So my thing is it then that we can accept that there are going to be casualties of war? So if you're because if the nature of men and boys, that you have to go through a certain amount of burning or a certain amount of disaster for things to be found. And I'm not, with boys it could be something as simple as you shock yourself, you realize, okay, you don't put your finger in that socket. But in terms of finding exploration and finding new frontiers and discovering new things, that would have come with a certain, I would assume, if you look at it through history, a certain amount of fatalities that got us to have that understanding. So is it then that's par for the course? So almost like hunting, like going out there. Since that young lady passed away, God rest her soul, we've had several hiking meetings, several things have happened to really bring about a common understanding from the fraternity that these are non-negotiables. This, and if not, it must go to legislation that the hiking fraternity is recognized in the various bodies. Otherwise, without a permit, it's illegal to then go and do what would have normally been casually going to bathe in the river.
I just want to make one thing clear. My definition of burn to learn doesn't mean you die, right? So if I'm about to do something, I would hope one of you three, if you know better, would stop me, right? Especially if it looks like that's probably going to end your life. Like, I think that's very, very important. Yeah. So nobody would let, or I would hope nobody would let you do something that's going to end your life. Burn to learn to me is like you learn a lesson. So it's a lesson to be learned, but you can't learn a lesson if you're dead.
So how does that differ, David, to like being a wild? So and when I say wild, you go down the islands or you do something and someone goes, I want to jump off that rock. And you might go, hey, the waters, the currents are bad, or there may be some rocks under there. But there might be 3-4 women on the boat. Well,
I have 3 boys and a daughter, and they jump off rocks all the time. But what I do is I go under, look at the depth. I'm actually there.
No, but you're checking that for younger people, but I'm talking about where females are involved now.
No, there's a bit of a show-off for the ladies, and they may die. But you're raising a point, right? I want to draw two examples quickly. We have this perennial problem in Trinidad and Tobago when we have flooding, and you have see persons driving through these floods. In the last 2 years, Robert, we've had 2 deaths, right? One in Trantrail Road in St. Augustine and the other one on the M2 in Princestown, which we were involved in trying to rescue the guy. He eventually succumbed he drowned. But the thing is, even though there is an information program and you're trying to edify the public about not driving in swift moving waters, it still happens. So you see, no matter how much you teach persons or you send a message outside, it will still happen. And that's the burden to learn, because some will learn and others will not learn anything from it.
That is the truth, you know.
We had two persons who I know in 2021, a gentleman diving off Turtle Rock and drowned, right? And then there was one in Ottawa village. We were searching for a toddler who eventually we found drowned, and he came in, a relative came in and just dived off a platform in front of us. We had to rescue him, throw him onto a fire van, a pickup, for him to be taken to the Miaro Hospital, and he died, right? These are two examples of doing things that everybody else around this thing don't do, because on the small jetty in Miaro there, it was recently repaired. There was rocks, steel sticking out of the ground, and you didn't even think about surveying that area before you chose to dive into it. And it happens, but I think no matter what, because I have an education background, we have to continue to educate persons. And the wildness you spoke about, that is embedded in us.
And that's right? What I was...
And with age becomes reasons. I hope that wildness turns into a careful
reason,
approach to how you approach being out there.
Experience, because, okay, let's use the word wildness or recklessness, right? And you have experience, you could be reasonably wild with experience. If you understand what I'm saying, is like, and of course, I am not condoning this behavior, right? But let's say taxi drivers, right? For me, most taxi drivers I've seen drive kind of reckless. And I've had family from away, etc., saying, well, what is going on here in Trinidad? But they drive recklessly with experience, because they do some kind of drives that it have to be skill. Again, I'm not condoning this. It have to be skill. So I don't know if ages bring reason, right? Supposedly we hear that, but I know it brings skill, and sometimes skill is important because that could save your life. I'm not saying because it could save life, you should do something dangerous. But the more you experience, the more skill you will have.
But we have to go to a break. But just to say that, I really want the next segment for us to really have more of a conversation on maybe some tips, some really, let's kind of go into that, because it's one thing to say, I listen to, it's funny you should say reasonably wild, because there's still moments that with experience, I have a lot of experience in the bush. So to me, it's, if something happens, I know I'm pretty capable of finding myself. My hand might be dangling or something, might be broken or whatever the case may be, but I could get myself out.
Still alive.
And as you mentioned, Turtle Rock, for those that are listening, don't jump off Turtle Rock, right?
It's not a place
I have done it, knowing all the dangers to it, but knowing to myself that, listen, I can get out of that current, because you're aware of certain things to do. But what I do recall is, as much as everyone at that point was saying, oh no, don't do it, I was doing recce for one of my wildlife shows, and it was like, okay, well, you needed some kind of rush. And for those who don't know, Turtle Rock is on the way to Paria, and it's about, what, 60, 70 foot?
Yeah.
And there's a rock under there. And you really have to time the tide. And once you get, and even when timing the tide, you then get caught in a swirl that could easily come there. And then even if you manage to get to the shore, navigating that little hill to get back to the path has a lot of mapapi, right? So with all of these things, I still said, yeah, why not? That's it's fun.
Why?
But would you do it again, Robert?
Why do it first?
So, it was. Why not? At that point, I'm just saying. But what I do recall is when I jumped off of it, I kept thinking to myself, this is high. Yeah, as I was coming down, and because I am over 200 pounds, hitting that water felt like hitting concrete. But at that point, there's a lot of adrenaline there's running through your body at that point, because not only are you hitting that water, immediately you're in survival mode.
Exactly.
You're immediately in survival mode, because it's not I'm jumping into a pool and I just come up and I start to swim. As soon as you hit that water's surface, realizing you're in a current, I'm now trying to make my way out of this swirl, up the bush, hoping, not to get hit, and then get back to then continue along the trail.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, you can.
How old were you?
Well, let me just put it this way. This is like 3 years ago.
How old were you?
So
There's a reason I'm asking.
47.
Right. So typically, and you don't fit into the category, the 44 mark is the cutoff point where we stop doing stupid things.
Right.
So men do things stupidly, which is that dangerous stuff up until about the age of 44. And I think we start to think about our mortality after the age of 44. So, and I did the research because I'm in the safety profession, and I wanted to know why people do what they do and why they take risks.
So I'm the dumb anomaly.
I didn't say that, but they're...
Nah. I see, that was ask you. And I know we had to go to a break. I asked, that was ask you, why not? Because
why?
It's important. Why? Because I'll speak from a general sense first, right? And this is not even a man thing, this is a human thing first. All of us, and in simplified terms, want to feel alive.
Correct.
Right? And that being alive is different things to different people. So it could be jumping off the rock for somebody. It could be going to university at age 45 again. It could be doing 3 degrees at the same time. Everybody have a different feeling of alive. But all of us want to feel alive. And the typical life that most of us lead, we don't feel alive. It's just the same routine, and it's just kind of going by the motion, etc. So when you have the opportunity now, and sometimes that's where the pent-up energy is.
Yeah, but help me understand this, because you asked if I'd do it again, right? Unless I had to save somebody. If I had to save somebody, I'd do it. Like if some stupid person did it, I would, and I had to, I would, especially if I was leading the hike. Would I do it again of my own volition? No. However, why is it within that knowing all the things that why someone else would have said you shouldn't jump, that I did it, but I can say in my mind, hey, I did it, even though I know I wouldn't do it again. So why is it I'll prevent someone else from doing it? Because it's the same. Well,
you do have a lived experience. You know how difficult it was.
That's it. But then,
and if you're not in good shape and you don't know what you're doing,
right,
a lesser person may not make it.
But I'm happy that I had the experience, is what I'm saying. But I would say, please, if you really aren't fully experienced, Turtle Rock, as easy as it might, you might look and say, hey, I could jump off that, I can deal with it. There's so many elements inside of there that could easily have gone the other way. And I will call myself the dumb anomaly.
Well, no, but I mean, maybe you're doing a blueprint. So you're saying, okay, I don't recommend it, but if you're going to do it, you darn well better know how to swim. You darn well better know that there's a current there, there's a rock there. So there's a few things you got to really know. You also have to know that once you're out of the water, you're still not out of the water. There's a trail that you got to walk, and that trail is slippery, got MAPA on it. So there's a bunch of things you should know before you attempt to do this. I mean, we jump out of airplanes. We do all kinds of crazy stuff in this world.
No, you see, it's not crazy, I think that's a mistake. It's not crazy means I don't understand why the person do it. But everybody have a reason, and that's why I use the general term first, being alive, because all of us want to have a sense of satisfaction, right? I think that's a human thing, and everybody finds it a different way. So it's not crazy. It have a reason behind it. Just like that's why I ask you so you can connect to that reason. All of us have it as men. Let me go as men first, right? Forget even impressing anybody else, right? Something about pushing yourself to the limit. So even though you experience I experience in different things, you want to do a little more, right? You want to do something else. And what it does is that's education also, but it also gives us a sense of confidence. And I've learned that for men, competence is confidence. So the more competent we are something, the more confidence we have. So even if it's competence in one area, it gives us confidence for other areas.
And sometimes to push the boundary. But you know that saying, F around and find out?
Yeah, right.
So I lost my mind, and then I found out.
Right, but
So,
Robert,
but we had to take
taking
a
risks.
We had to take. I wanted to come back with that thought, but we have to go to a break at this point. We're talking lost and found, or maybe this topic should even change to it's more burn to learn.
Yes.
This burn to learn. So we'll see you in a 5.
Okay, let me see you, Cherry Hill. Yeah, now take it back. Let me see you rock off, shake off. Let me see you rock off. Let me see you kick right. Now step forward, now step back.
Lucozade, bring the energy. Unbeatable taste, new look.
Shake off. Let me see you rock off.
My man, Andre.
Good night, Anthony.
7 years with the company, and we couldn't do it without Antoine.
Happy birthday, dear Alejandro. Happy birthday to you.
Who's Angelo?
We're like coworkers who don't forget your name.
I'm Angelo.
CG United. Good like that.
Struggling with blood sugar swings, high blood pressure, or stiff joints? Take control with Aja Nutrition's powerful wellness trio. Berberine Plus supports healthy blood sugar. Blood pressure support helps keep your pressure in check. And Joint Aid keeps your joints moving so you can stay active every day. Don't wait. Choose Aja Nutrition for trusted, effective solutions. Available at Pennywise and leading pharmacies nationwide. Feel better, move better, live better with Aja Nutrition.
This is ManHOOD, where we're talking about lost and found, burn to learn. And Robert, I was going to make the point about taking risks. And I would tell you that on our team, even though you have the safe, you have to follow the guidelines while you're out there will always be that one or two persons who will want to push boundaries and go and do a little more than is expected. And I think what we do not have is that ability to calculate risk. And we feel that we could do it. Sometimes when we have females on our team out there and we are sliding down a slope without a rope, we have to stop and think about them. And they would say, no, we want to do what you're doing. And then just to follow suit. And so it's a lot of egos involved when you get a group of people, testosterone, and otherwise when you get a group of persons going out there, and there is difficulty in numbers as well, right? So I would always try to have a manageable number, 8 to 10. Sometimes I have 17 members turning out, and I would tell you it's difficult to manage. I can't keep my eye on all of them. The radios are not sufficient for that amount of persons, and there are always risks to be taken.
You ever made a call just to not do it? Like we say 70 people come or 20 people come, and you realize, okay, it would be nice to have the hike, but I really can't. You ever had to just say, nah?
No, well, I don't do hikes. We do searches for missing persons. Mm-hmm. We're always out there. But I've never had to turn down. The way the team is built now, we have good secondary leaders, mm-hmm. and they're able to manage their groups wisely. But what is important to note is that this little wanting to get this done and get it done quickly, that causes problems.
So, I'm hearing David, I want you to chime in here, like, not to bring everything to hiking, but I know it will vary from trail to trail and where you're going, but is there a suggested cap? Like, sometimes you go on a hike and you see 30, 40, sometimes 50 people or more, depends on how easy it is to get there. Like if it's a Marion Gorges or Rio Seco waterfall, and, it's a whole crowd of persons coming there. And you're looking at it from a perspective of, okay, it's a trail, they have a life jacket. But again, in our experience, even Rio Seco Falls, I've seen that water, that fall churn up to a point of, persons going under and how easily you can get pushed and come to the bottom of that. But is there a suggested...
I think I always go back to preparation. I think if you had a guide and he had 30 people, I would like to think that he's smart enough to know what he's dealing with. Which ones can swim, which ones can't swim, which ones are good shape, which ones got the... So I think if you had 30 people, one guide, and those 30 people are in good shape, they know the wilderness, they know all that, I think you're going to be successful. I think if you have one guide and 30 people that have never been on a hike, they're wearing flip-flops, they're not prepared, they know nothing, they're all out of shape, you're going to be in trouble. So I don't think that's a good idea.
So David, I'm gonna ask you guys point blank. Do you think that we have that in place as a fraternity, as a setup that you can say, I'm confident that I'm not asking you to call any names of individual organizations or groups. I'm saying to you in general. Do you think that those things are followed?
I worked with a particular hiking club, and when he had a big group, he actually hired me to come with them as a first aid person. You get the backpack, first aid gear. I'm at the very back, bringing up the rear while he's doing his thing. You don't even know I'm there, and you shouldn't know I'm there unless you need me. And I think that was very responsible. It was a big group of people, and they were in good shape. These people were in good shape. They're young, they're healthy people. But I think he had. I think we do. I think once you use common sense, that's a common sense thing. And I think once you use your common sense, once you do a little research, once you know who you're dealing with, you make the right decisions. And I think we have good decision makers in this country. I really do.
That's really refreshing to know. But
Robert, I think the rule of thumb in hiking worldwide is 1 to 10. All right. I mentioned earlier that I'm comfortable with 10 members of my team going out together with me. That is what I could manage. And I think what has happened is because people want to make a profit from hiking, they increase the numbers without a commensurate responsibility to safeguards and following guidelines. And that is why we came together with the fraternity to stop this in its footstep. I think a reasonably priced grouping should be 10, with 2 senior persons together with that 10 to take them to any hike or any expedition, be it down the islands, on a boat, any part. Trinidad and Tobago for exploration purposes and leisure, of course, should be 1 to 10. It should not exceed that at no time. And that's an industry standard that we should adhere to.
So, Vance, I really want to be remiss of me not to have a bit of context into Hunters Search and Rescue. I really want to find out a bit more about some really, how it was founded, some stories inside of it that you've seen from your own collective experiences. But before we go into that, you mentioned a point about when you take people out on hikes, and you answer not just the female presence involved, where men tend to, whether innate or learned, there's a certain. And we use the word testosterone, but testosterone is simply what's in all of us. But in terms of the behavior, what is some of the reasoning behind that leads us sometimes down that path of danger? Because the confidence that you might have seeing, say, for example, going in the bush, and I might see David do something, and immediately I think, I can do that. But his experience has made that look simple. Or he's also aware of I'm going down here, and if these other things happen, I know what to do. You're simply looking at it as, I'm sliding down that, not realizing that there are many other factors in there. What gives us that, and I'm, for lack of a better term, right now, because I said I'm the dumb anomaly when it came to jumping off the rock, what makes us stupid.
Well, okay, but and it's good not to describe it as stupid because, and this is for all of us. We have something called mirror neurons, right, in our brains, right? That's mostly active when we are little children because we have to look at others to see how to navigate the world. So that's like how child learn to walk, etc. But all of us still have it active. So that's why when we watch Fast and Furious, we feel we could drive the car like that. We watch a show of people dancing. We think because we want to. Those neurons in our brains want to imitate it, right? Now, you know they say knowledge is power. So if we are aware, firstly, we have something like that, we could understand that, okay, I feel I could fight Kung Fu now because I watch a movie, but I know that's just the excitement, the mirror neurons, the adrenaline. So if you're aware of that, one, you would make better decisions. That's one. Two is, let's go with the impressing. I mean, we all know there are men who, when they see women that they like, or maybe they just women in general, I want to look impressive. So that's why, one, having somebody who could manage that, because sometimes it's emotions the person going on, right, and which could endanger the entire group. But also, even as men, we know we like that, right? You may not be like this all the time, but you know you have some of that in you. And because, again, you know it, again, that's why I'm going always with knowledge is power. Being honest with yourself about who you are as a man could also help it taper it, because, yes, I know I want to impress, but am I dead? Or I know I want to impress, or I might put somebody else's life in danger.
But you might still do it. That's my point. So even if I say something like burn to learn, burn to learn is also, guys, surviving. Yeah. Because if you look at it, that there's certain people that might burn to learn in terms of thinking, I could follow David down a particular path and nothing may happen to me, or something minor may happen to me, and I might learn from the experience to say, okay, well, this could have happened. But then someone else might do it, and all the factors that made that risky occurs, and you mightn't live to tell the story. So therefore, it could be burn to learn where you've lived the experience, or it could be where someone has looked at someone, be ignorant in that particular case, and then realize, okay, well, that's not a good idea. But yet,
I want you to come with me, though. So if I am the one down there, I have 4 children. I want them to experience life. I want them to jump off, well, maybe not Turtle Rock, but they're all good swimmers. But I want them to be knowledgeable enough to know that there's certain things I have to plan for and all that business. So listen, you come down with me, I got your back, and I would expect that you'd have my back too, right? So I want them to burn to learn, really. I really do. Now, I don't want them to be obviously injured or killed or anything like that, but as a father, you want to allow them. I mean, we went to 3 pools. They're all jumping off the cliffs in 3 pools, and I'm there, boogie board, flippers on, jump. I see what you got to do there. My daughter, I'm very proud of her. She's got 3 brothers she has to contend with. She's a twin of a brother. She's jumping off them rocks just like the boys. So
what does the Trini wife say in all of this?
My Trini wife does not swim. Well, she does. She swims like basically the same as a rock. So it's not a very good swim, right? But she's usually not there because you have to go kind of on a hike to 3 pools. So she'll stay on the beach, usually cook because she's a chef. So she doesn't get to see that until you see the videos. But she appreciates that they do that, right? At the end of the day. Okay. And she also, I think, appreciates that I'm there to kind of supervise and not let it get out of hand because they are still children.
Because my Trini woman says to me, she only has 1. And if anything happens to him when I take him on these hikes, make sure you're not coming back as well.
Well, mine says the same thing, and I understand that. That's why I'm vigilant. I pay attention, and I just make sure that it goes well. Like I plan, I go under the water, I make sure that I say here, jump here, don't jump over there, right? So yeah, but they get that exhilaration.
Yeah.
They get that, and. Yeah,
which is important, and that's why, even as you were saying before, Robert, sometimes a casualty, like people who stupidly do things and then they end up a casualties. In some instances, and I'm sure you would say you can't avoid that, because in the discovery of many things, people died, right? And I'm not saying it's a good thing, because those people also sometimes in their gusto, in their gumption, they want to discover, because let's say discovering the new world, many people died before all of the famous discoverers actually lived to write it. All the discoveries we had, the electricity, somebody get electrocuted, right? Somebody's plane crash before we get to somebody something. So I think that is this to me the beauty of being a man, and as we in manhood is that pushing your limits is important, right? And sometimes it don't have to be you lift 10 pounds and then you lift 100 pounds after. But even if you lift 15 pounds, that's still pushing the limit, and you continue going. So if you want to swim, or jump, you jump from 10 feet first, and maybe you try 15 feet. But each way you're going, you're getting the experience, so that now you can add it, so that you still can eliminate all risk, but at least now you can mitigate it in some way, because I experience with 10 pounds. So 11 pounds might be different, but at least I know something instead of jumping to something higher.
So sometimes it's a case of surviving it as well. So if I take your example for the hunter, or being a lone wolf by nature, there are times that I have not asked for directions or asked where a waterfall is, and in getting lost, right, is where I found so many other things. And I also learned from myself, like whether it be experiences that have happened, to say, shit, I really need to next time bring a rope, or I need to do this, I need to do that. But again, I've been fortunate that nothing happened, because other than that, I could have been calling meeting Valance in the bush.
Yeah,
you know. But I want to hear some of you guys' stories, because I know that there's plenty, but I also want to hear about how hunters came about.
So, Robert, 5 years ago, incidentally, today is the day on which Andrea Barrett's body was found. 3 days prior to that, we gathered a group of hunters, hikers, to assist in the search for her. Watching on the television, I thought, that hunters should have been involved in that search. They were searching the non-Pariel estate in Sandy Grande and other forested areas. So I thought, let me make a call. And I called and I contacted the Commissioner of Police, and it was agreed that we would join the search. And after her body was found, we decided we'd continue doing this as a service to the country, free of charge. And this happened 5 years ago, and today we're here. But we've had some interesting stories, like a gentleman, Robert, he would go into the forest to harvest parrots alone. And then he did not come back. His daughter said for 3 days her father did not come back. And this is in the Nariva swamp. And when she contacted us, we had to go in there, neck-height water in the swamp, because in walking swamp, the less you wear, it is better. You can't go in there with boots. You have to take off your boots. And you have to walk in there carefully, tread carefully, get there. And after about 3 hours, we were to get the gentleman's body. You know what happened? Apparently he slipped and fell from a tree about 80 feet high. And while harvest to get it to the parrots, and his ankle became tangled in a vine. And he just stayed there upside down and died at about 50 feet high up on the tree. And to me, finding him really speaks volumes of our team. Because were it not for Hunter's Search and Rescue Team, his daughter would not have been able to achieve closure. It took a lot of skill.
This is what I want to find out. What sets that apart, David and Valance? Because there's experienced hikers, but it seems to me that hunters just have that much more. What gives you that edge? Like what is that makes me want to draw more from a hunter's perspective, a hunter's knowledge, rather than speak to another hike leader?
Yeah, I think because if you look at the vegetative cover of Trinidad and Tobago, you have hunters who hunt in the swamps in various types of terrain, right? Quarries, and I think that is where the advantage comes from. Yeah, also, key is our ability to track. so that if she said he went to harvest parrots, we would have known what to look for. We were looking for trees, palmist trees in this river swamp with holes. We were looking for bird droppings, parrot droppings, straw droppings in the water, and also as he would have followed a pathway through the swamp, so he would have left mud marks, skid marks, that type of thing. And so we followed, we tracked him down until such time that just as we looked up at the tree, we saw him hanging there. Of course, Robert, the scent would have gotten to us just before spotting him.
What is that? I mean, what is that? Because I mean, I know that you even went through with me, the hiker that we lost recently. That you were the one that had to actually go under the water several dives to free her body. What is that? What is that like? Is it a point that you become desensitized? What is that like? Knowing what more than likely you've already you know the family has hope, but in your experiences you know what you're going to find.
Yeah, at first I was really not accustomed to finding dead bodies all over the country. Initially, I would send a couple of the guys, if I spotted something, I would send them in to take a look, and then I started to take a look myself, because I realized that I need to safeguard the mental strength of members. So I myself became strengthened enough to be able to go and look. And it's not a question of desensitization. It's a question of you put your mind to do something, you get in there, you just get the job done, and you get out quickly, and you call the police and say, well, there's a body here. But it's always shocking, I must say. It's always shocking to stumble upon a dead human body. It's not a nice experience. But again, because of the experience now, the members on the team, they've become accustomed to it. And but it's always, you always have to be mentally tough to deal with that. And I want to transfer mental toughness now together with the hunting skills, and the transfer of the hunting skills to searching. And to me, that's what embodies our team, that mental toughness, that ability to search, and David training us to be safe. That has made us a team that has come out without a single scratch in the last 5 years. The makeup of the team has been carefully structured by myself to be that, because safety is the most important thing on the team.
David, before we go to the break, I just want to find out, some, because we hear about the hunter search and rescue and the safety there and what you've done working with them, but you've also had many experience with other men, and again, I use the word the dumb anomalies, but in terms of the stupidity or testosterone or whatever way we want to, butter that up. But what are some of these stories that where you've had to deal with circumstances?
Right. I think the desensitization is kind of important. I don't think that exists, to be frank. You'd have to be kind of a monster to be, not human when you see something like that. I can only speak for myself. When I was a paramedic, people died. I just never wanted to be the cause of the death. So I wanted to be able to make sure that I'm a protocol-driven animal, if you will. The doctor allows me to do certain things. I wanted to be good at those certain things. I spent a lot of my own personal money to become good, so that I knew that if you died, it wasn't my fault, if you will. I'm going to do the absolute best I can to get you to that hospital alive. But it's still, I remember, people die in the back of the ambulance. You go home and you hug up your family after that, because you realize how quick it can end, right? And
so how do you see that in your hiking expeditions now, knowing what that feels like and knowing the safety, being a safety expert, and seeing sometimes these moments of whether the mirror neurons firing and people tend to do silly things without you being able to secure an area?
I think death makes you more vigilant. I think it's a learning experience, because when somebody does die, you as a person have to self-reflect and say, okay, that's not going to happen. I'm going to do everything I can possibly do for that not to happen with me. I think that's, you have to self-reflect, just like you said, and I think you have to prepare. I'm a big person on preparation, and I see it every time I go to Tobago. You Trinidadian people, your preparation seems to be on the plane or whatever. Is like you have 1 minute to listen to this poor lady talk about what you need to do. Yeah. Just a simple thing. Do you even check for your life jacket under your seat if you're on the boat or you're on the plane?
Because they say it's there, but do you actually check?
Yeah, but do you check? Yeah. Right? And when I put mine on and you're looking at me and you don't have one, you ain't getting mine, you know, right? Because I couldn't even save you if without one, because I know what the water's like, right? So we just have to be prepared. There's ways to prepare, and I'm a proponent. You need to be prepared.
I want you to talk. We need to take a quick break, but I want you to come back and let's go through that. Some of the preparation and how to deal with people who simply might not want to be prepared, and you have to be cognizant of that. That if it goes down, I'm not just going to walk away from that person. I now have to take on, even though their level of ignorance is there, we could live to fight another day. I could deal with, they could get rock a hard slap on them back in camp. So take a short break. Lost and found. Really burn to learn is the topic.
You know, in the past, everyone was treated in a particular way.
Yep.
You have breast cancer, remove the breast, and then go for chemo.
Correct.
You know, and that's not the standard now. Each patient may not need to remove the breast. They may be able to preserve the breast. Some patients may need hormone therapy, some may not. Some may need some additional treatments like chemotherapy or targeted therapy. How would you feel as a woman when someone calls and said the doctor wants to speak to you about your results? Does that lead or triggers a response in you of anxiety?
Your immune system is your first line of defense. Discover BioStrath Immune Health. BioStrath Immune Health is enriched with zinc, ensuring that your body stays resilient. BioStrath Immune Health. Get what you need naturally.
Two fat fellas goes to San Fernando. Heading south.
Two fat fellas comes to Sapa for 2 nights only. Saturday 14th and Sunday 15th March. 2 nights only.
Two fat fellas stars: Cecilia, Penny, Kevon, Zachary, Rachel, and Rory. Tickets available at Dormont Shoe Store along Circular Mall, K-Square Stores, Eastgate Mall, Brentwood Plaza, Athletes by the Park. All the Southern Food Basket locations. Sapa box office opens on Friday the 13th and islandetickets.com. For more info, call 683-4843.
Two fat fellas, Sapa. 2 nights only.
Kali Matha Astrology Center, Master Karthik. 35 years experience, Indian generation astrologer. He can discuss past, present, and future. He can advise on reading hand, face, and horoscope. He would give advice for all your problems. Special guidance for broken relationships, husband and wife disputes. Can advise on bringing back loved ones. Gives unbreakable protection. Call now 275-7489. Located in Arima, Port of Spain, Debe, Curep, Chaguanas, and San Fernando.
Okay, let me see you Cherry Hill. Yeah, now take it back. Let me see you rock off, shake off, shake off. Let me see you rock off, rock off. Let me see you kick right. Now step forward, now step back.
Lucozade, bring the energy.
Rock off,
unbeatable
rock
taste,
off.
new look.
Shake off. Let me see you rock off, rock off.
This is ManHOOD. We're talking Burn to Learn or Lost and Found.
And you're going to tell us about the risk mitigation, some techniques in terms of assessing risk.
Yeah, so I think one of the first things everybody can do, before you go to the woods, understand the woods is a dangerous place. You have to have certain training, certain knowledge. You have to know what is out there. I think everybody should have a first aid course. I go back to the plane. if I'm on the plane, I grab my life jacket, I put my life jacket on there. I have to prepare myself first. We get out in that water. If you don't have a life jacket on, you're probably not going to make it, you know. I put my life jacket on. When I'm set up, then I look at who is next to me that maybe needs some help. I can help them. I can't help you if I'm half drowned in myself, right? So I think that's the key. The key is you have to be that person that, number one, you're prepared, you're knowledgeable, you're trained, you're fit. Fitness, fitness is so important, it isn't funny, right? Especially when you're going out there for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. And then you might be responsible for somebody to get them out. I ended up, just like you, having to carry somebody 3 hours out of the woods on my back. Thank God I was young, strong, and fit. I'm a little older now, not as fit. I probably could do it, but I would struggle. I just think that people need to be prepared.
What does fitness look like? Like, for example, if you were to connect it to, say, the savannah, is it that you must at least be able to walk 3 savannas or do 20 push-ups? What does that look like?
Well, I think one of the key things is, can you carry weight on your back for a distance? Now, I think there's a level of fitness that they talk about, carrying your own weight, 200 paces. That means your muscles are relatively strong. I think there's a certain amount of cardiovascular. If you're going on a hike for 3 hours, it's an hour and a half in, an hour and a half back. That really shouldn't wind you. You should be, and you should be flexible enough that, you know, your muscles are going to work for that 3 hours, right? If you've never done a hike like that, I don't suggest you go in do a 3-hour hike. I suggest you start slow, prepare yourself, stretch, you know, go out there, do some cardio, and then maybe do it, right? It's that old saying, I'm an old man, 56 years of age. If I wanted to do a big hike, I probably should see a doctor first, make sure that all my systems are prepared. And I have to, like I go back to self-reflection. Like, am I really capable of doing this now? Or should I maybe do it in 6 months after I prepare myself a little bit better, right? So you have to self-reflect and know yourself, because not everybody's capable of doing a 3-hour hike.
And when you look at, again, I'm thinking of myself as I think Turtle Rock, where in I would say my younger days, I know I'd be capable of, say, a 3-hour hike. And I'd be like, I'd be the guy that goes, let's go on a 7-hour hike. You know, where the 3 hours is actually going inside. Sometimes more, and sometimes, as funny as it might sound, sometimes coming back out is more technical than when you, like, for example, going to El Tacuch. You know, technically it's harder to come back out than going up. I mean, yes, you might be slower because it's the incline, but coming down really puts a strain on your knees, etc., especially if you're going to Morang waterfalls. And I keep calling all these names as we're going along, because I really do want people to explore this country. You know, ecotourism.
You do?
I do. But I want people to do it properly. I want people to do safety, and also the right way, where you're not destroying the environment, you're not leaving rubbish, etc. But safety being paramount, so that Valance could sit back and have a coffee.
If we could have Valance not working,
we
will enjoy that.
He would enjoy that.
We would enjoy that.
And David doing more work than Valance, or probably coming on a hike where they're like, listen, well, let's enjoy what is happening here, as opposed to being paranoid as to what may happen or call out may come. So, you know, before we go into maybe some more stories or tips that you guys may want to share before we wrap up, to really have a sense of, within this topic, you know, it may come across that we may have gone off on a tangent in certain areas, but it is lost and found, and in the moment of coming down to men not seeking direction, the reasons maybe behind it, the bravado, why we do what we do, the whole burn to learn concept is a certain sense of being lost. And in certain cases, if you're fortunate, like, for example, me now learning a couple things here today, that I can find myself or find out why I may have done certain dumb things. I've been fortunate that I'm sitting here now with all faculties in order, where it could have been another story.
Yeah.
Turtle Rock could have presented another story, and that's just one of the stories I'll give you with regards to things that I've done, but thank God that I've not now had to risk your life or your life having to come and find me because of something that I did for my own wildness or excitement or extreme part of me. That if you're getting damaged, like you said about putting on your life jacket, don't let my ignorance or your ignorance now endanger somebody else's life. And that also comes from leading. If you're not aware and you don't want to ask for directions or you don't want to ask what is the right thing to do, and then you take someone along with you who thinks that you are prepared, who thinks that you are aware, and now you've endangered their life and may result in loss of life.
I just want to dumb anomaly. I want to address that dumb anomaly. I think probably the four of us, we all have a moment of dumb anomaly. I know I have many. I mean, when I was younger, I drove to Florida from Canada. First thing I see is a big tower, 7 stories, bungee jumping. I'm on that. Boom, in I go, pay my money. I'm looking down, my legs are shaking. I look to the man. What happens if I'm too scared to go? He says, I don't care. I already got your money. I'll just lower you down. He said, but we're ready to go. Go. And I jump. 12 days later, the cord broke on somebody, right? So, and I realized right there, like, there's a lot more to bungee jumping than just jumping, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. Dumb anomaly. I was just very lucky.
See, again, not necessarily, because, again, in the past, boys had to go through a rite of passage, right? And a rite of passage is not really something that exists really in this modern day. So therefore, I think innate in all of us men, all of us want to go through a rite of passage. And in different ways, again, it don't have to be in the bush. It could be anything. It could be in an academic way. It could be in a technical way, however it is. But that rite of passage, so you could prove to yourself, it's not even to anybody else, It's to prove to yourself that I could. Mm-hmm. That I could do it, whatever the it is. And then once you know you could do it, you'll want to do more. But if you are afraid of doing it, whatever the it is, or you never do the it, then you might have fear for the rest of your life to do anything at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know. I think we all agree that's the nature of men. We ready to explore. We ready to push the boundaries. If you go back in history, and you see the first people in Trinidad and Tobago with the Caribs and Arawaks, somebody would have had to leave Pedernales in a wooden canoe to cross the Dragon's Mouth to get to Trinidad. And who did it? Whether they survive or not, but who was the first person
some people
to reach?
Probably didn't make it, and
we know nothing about them.
And then we don't know anything about them. Yeah. So I think men, and I could tell you it's men who did it, right? Mm-hmm. So even the first astronauts and the number of deaths we've had as they try to explore more of the universe. So it has always been men who have been doing this and leading out there, right? And you said I think more is like gathering the stripes, on your shoulder as you grow. And you said, well, I've accomplished this. Robert, I did Sea Scouts, I did this, then I went to hiking, and then I'm exploring forests all over Trinidad and Tobago. So we gather the stripes as we go along. But I'm thinking now that there was on our team chat this morning a concern that we are approaching the carnival, and our team is always uneasy about the approach of carnival, and the reason being the vast majority of citizens really do not actively take part in carnival, but they seek a vacation in the outdoors, going to Tobago, going down the island,
camps,
rivers, beaches, camps, a lot of camps. If you go Blanchisseuse, a lot of camps, people going to tree pools. And we always uneasy because we expecting somebody to call concerning
the weather patterns are all over.
Yeah, the weather patterns. So somebody to call. And inevitably it might be a man, or most likely a man we have to go and rescue or find. And so I think it will always continue to happen. I am hoping that through education, through programs like this, we could get to the stage where everyone is properly prepared, to go on an outdoor excursion. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much.
But because I want you to, before we wrap, I want to, because again, a lot of times when we talk about things on the show, the obvious thing to certain people might be, okay, well, I hear you, but where can I get that information? Where can I learn that? Yeah. But before you do that, you said something about it's normally men. But, there's the other side of things where I know this is a men's podcast, a space of courage, where we're speaking predominantly about men, but we're also always speaking to all people.
Yes.
And women also may think to themselves, I don't want no man helping me. I don't want to appear weak and go off and do things to try and mirror what the man is doing or to show that I am strong and capable, and themselves put themselves in.
Well,
it
happens on our team. It happens on our team where the women try to mirror what the men doing, and sometimes is onerous tasks we're performing, and they will want to join in and get it done. Whether it's to go out 3 hours to Madamas, to retrieve our body, they will want to jump in and mirror exactly what we're doing. But Robert, let's get to some serious things. You're going out with your family. What we found is a simple rope that costs a nice soft rope, not those nylon ones, maybe 10 feet long. You get one of that and you place it in your car. Okay? That's very important. We found that a rope can do so much in terms of the conduct of rescues and searches. A rope can perform many functions. All right, you might be able to tie a cooler cover to it and throw it for somebody if someone is in difficulty while bathing. You may be able to throw it down a cliff or to just tie it to a tree to get somebody up 10 feet higher. And so that's one thing. But you see, the safety kit, it's very cheap. You go down to Peaks, Bagwan Singh, anywhere, you will get a nice first aid kit. Very cheap, and David could go through the contents with you. But that rope is very, very important. And we could go on now. For example, you have to go outdoors with people who are knowledgeable about the area. Like, for instance, I would never advise somebody to really just go on your own to Mission Bay in Toku. Our experience is that anybody who gets themselves in difficulty, their bodies are never found because there are rock shelves underneath there and is extremely dangerous. There are other parts of Toku and Grand River that you could go and bathe, but that Mission Beach area, if you're going there, you have to go with somebody from the Toku area to bathe. Likewise, Miaro. Now, what we found in Miaro is that there is a longshore current that runs along the seashore. And if you're not knowledgeable about the currents in Miaro, you could get into difficulty while bathing in knee-height water, right? And then I don't have to tell you about Maracas. Sometimes you're bathing in Maracas and then these huge waves come upon you. So you have to be knowledgeable. Go to beaches with someone who knows the area. Now let's talk about rivers. The flash flooding that occurs in the rivers or the sudden gush of water, that's the main cause of death in rivers. All right, you're seeing sunshine all around you, and you do not know where this water comes from. It comes from rainfall in some other part of the mountain, and therefore, again, your rope will help you, David. And if you have a cooler cover, make sure it's nearby, so you could tie and you could throw and you could save lives.
The other thing, as you're talking about gadgets and things to have with you, before we get into, of course, like where to go to get caught to go on courses, things like even from your camel pack, that there's that same hose that you're drinking from. If someone is in difficulty, that is still a straw. That is still about a 3-4 foot straw that can, possibly save someone's life if they do go under in a capacity where you may not be able to you may be able to swim, but not swim good enough to save someone or to hold someone.
And
but
even
this is
the camel pack you could throw for them. It will have some buoyancy in it.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about in the case of someone getting trapped and water's rising, that's another method to at least keep them breathing. Through that.
I want to share a story with you. Before COVID, I was camping in Blanchisseuse, and a lady was coming up. There was a big church group there, and there was lots of people on the beach there, and a lady was running by, and she said, one of our church members is out there, and he's drowned, and he's in trouble. Well, your boy like David Hasselhoff, he grabbed his boogie board, and off he went, right, to save this fella. And I thought it was going to be real simple. I swam out there with my boogie board, I turned it around, and when I got out there, I was amazed. This man is a big, strapping young man. Like, he's got muscles everywhere. And I give him the boogie board, I look at him, and you could tell his face is like, if you hadn't been here in 1 minute, that was the end. I was going down. You could just tell by his face, right? I give him the boogie board. He grabs onto the boogie board. I said, you good? He said, yes. I said, let we swim. I start swimming. I don't think I was 1 minute swimming. I swam back. I had to grab onto the boogie board. Trained. Didn't know I was in a rip current. We're now being pushed out. I'm being flopped around. Now he and I are now hanging onto that boogie board for our lives. 3 more men, 1 guy with a life jacket to come out to save us. Now I think there's 5 guys on a boogie board. 5 guys on that boogie board. Not one of us, even though I was trained and know better, realized we're in a rip current. We're all in trouble. Thank God. There's about 30 men in there with rope. They pulled us in, you know. Now, everybody said, I'm the hero with the boogie board. Huh? I'm almost a drowned hero out there with the boogie board, but thank God. I go back to rope is very important. Yeah. The rope saved us. That they threw a rope out to us and pulled us in. One guy had a boogie board. I remember they were pulling us in, and one guy, he went back, like he fell off the boogie board. I remember his name's Nigel. I looked back at Nigel. I said, Nigel, you okay? He went, nope. I let go of the rope, you know. The only thing saving us was that boogie board. And he had a life jacket on, and he was still in trouble. I'm telling you, Mother Nature wins every time. If you're not prepared, even if you're prepared and trained, you can still get into trouble, you know.
Where can people, before we wrap, where can one get that information, and more so than just looking on a website? Where can one, say for example, how you said Mearo or Mission Bay, these areas where, okay, get familiar with a local or ask someone, what in your experiences, where can you find that person who has knowledge of these areas, and where can you do first aid? You hear people say all the time, oh, Red Cross, but is it like every day they're doing a course, or is it you offer courses? Where can one, get educated?
I think what I would say is difficult, but you could if you're going to Mearo, pay particular attention. Well, first of all, I think you should bathe at beaches where you have lifeguard station. And the second thing is pay attention and learn the difference between what's a red and yellow flag, and a yellow flag to beat. So you should be able to converse with a lifeguard at any time who will give you the proper area.
That's the norm.
But I know.
But
what you're coming with, because
if you're cool, and a lot of like hikers, everybody wants to go to that spot or tell somebody about this spot that nobody else knows.
Exactly.
Nobody else
and that is what
about.
Causes some of the problems. Okay, but generally speaking, in terms of first aid, what I've found is that you need to continuously learn and relearn everything with respect to first aid. For instance, conducting a CPR on someone, you need to practice that continuously. But there are some basics, because you just need to learn how to use bandages and to patch up somebody generally. And then, there are more intensive
Is that something you
things.
offer?
Yeah.
But
and
I'll tell you,
the
OSHA Act requires all companies to have first aid trained people. So if I was you, if I have a job, I would go to the management and said, I'd like to join the emergency response program. They'll train you how to fight a fire. They'll train you how to do first aid. It is a legal requirement. They probably have an affiliation with either Red Cross or somebody like myself. Right. They'll train you, and that's a very good way to be trained.
So if someone's listening here and they're like, I want to do those courses, how how do they hire you?
Just contact Balance.
Oh, yeah, you could call 799-1453, and I'll willingly pass on David's number to you.
He might even try to recruit you to become
I
part of his
consider
group,
him
too.
really, and I want to make this point.
Say the number
I
again.
consider David Douglas to be one of the best trainers in Trinidad and Tobago. And with respect to Hunter's search and rescue team, I wanted the best.
Just
and
say the
I
number
got
again,
the best.
so we can
My number is 799-1453. So just contact that number and you could get in touch with David through me. He's really excellent in his field, and he has a record that to me is unmatched in the country in terms of training. Excellent.
So the 799-1943. 1943 is what you said?
1453.
That's your number or that's David's number?
I don't know, David. Give us your number.
336-1891. 336-1891.
And is that individual services or is that company service or
Well,
both?
I would typically do company-wide, right? But I actually really enjoy doing like schools and churches, right? So we can work out something that would be beneficial for both of us, and I would come into your group, and yeah, we would do some training for you.
And as he speaks about schools and churches, I just want to mention that part of our what we do is outreach programs, and we were talking about how we could get these young boys focused on safety early to prevent them getting injured or probably meeting their deaths while doing outdoor things. We've been to a number of schools, and the kids, the children, they're very interested in what we have to show them in terms of all the safety equipment and gear we use. And to me, that's a way of, getting them interested in they love the outdoors. They like to go into our hammocks, go on the radios, but they also pay particular attention to things like, our simple thing like insect repellents, how you could protect yourself from probably bees in the environment. And to me, because we thought as a team, Robert, instead of going to save all these persons and searching for all these persons, why not get to the schools and start there?
Correct.
And be proactive and try and reduce some of these incidents.
Prevention.
Incidents will happen. Incidents will continue to happen.
And it has to, because burn to learn.
Yeah,
it has to. It's the only way that we're going to figure out. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes you can make a calculated guess that, okay, if I jump in here, this is going to happen. But what happens in certain cases where if people look at the Earth and they say it was flat.
Yeah.
If nobody decided to pioneer and go forward, we wouldn't know. So sometimes you have to. You may jump in and realize, hey, nothing is going to happen to me, or there's a cave that I see, or in whether that's a metaphor for life, it is sometimes jumping all in and finding out. What's some of your closing thoughts with regards to we're not just talking about safety here, but in terms of messages to men?
I think we know that as men, we tend to want to explore and probably to go overboard sometimes, but I think it's very important that you think about what you're doing before you get into it. Now, the life experiences, and we've had as Hunters Search and Rescue Team, just simply tells us that it is better to pre-plan what you're doing and then get it done. If it is going into, let's say, an underground cave in the sea, find out from others, make sure you have your safety gear, and then go exploring, because if you don't, Hunters Search and Rescue Team will have to come and look for you, and most of the times it's horrible at the back end when we get in to save someone.
And as you said, coming to look for you, there are times that you might know that they came.
Yeah.
You might be the fortunate one that know that they came.
Yeah.
David?
I just want you to be prepared. I think everybody should have a first aid course. It's a skill I think you should have learned since you were a child. I taught my children how to do first aid, I think, at age 5. And I remember, unfortunately, I had to do CPR on my son's football coach. And my child, I think he at the time was either 6 or 7, he criticized my CPR skills. So he remembered, even though it was a year ago, how to do CPR. So if that's the case, then from the age 5, 6, you can learn that skill, right? And I think high school, probably like teenagers, that's the time to really do it. I want you to be prepared. I want you to have fun. I want you to explore. I want you to burn to learn, but I want you to do it where you're not going to burn in such a bad way you'll never want to try it again, or you'll be so injured you have to make it to the hospital.
So to those who are listening on at what David just said, all that in a collective about preparation, first aid, having fun, excitement is why I've asked them whether they remember or not to be on my next Wild show. So look out for that.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. You all gave me a better appreciation of why it's good to be an expert in your field, right? And that there are many men in society that are the pillars of society. Sometimes you don't even know. Yeah. Right? And what you said too when you brought up being desensitized, also it helped me even in my field to understand that sometimes when you're expert in your field, you would be quote unquote desensitized to certain things because you have to be the person, the leader in that situation, right? I remember once I had an electrician come by me and he was getting shocked, right? And I was like, how you think? And I say, well, I just get accustomed getting, small electrocuted and a plumber might put his hand in somebody's toilet and you might think certain things. A dentist, I was now what dentists could go in your mouth as but everybody have their thing that is important to us running this society that's important. So it gave me a better appreciation of you all as men, give a better appreciation even me approaching my profession. So I thank you very much for that. And the biggest thing I'm taking is we should push limits, but be as prepared as possible. You can't account for every anomaly. So if you're going into a workshop, have all your pens, pencils, wherever you need. If you're going into the bush, have the rope, have the first aid kit, everything. And if you're going into life in general, whatever you think you need as a man, you can't account for everything, but be as prepared as possible.
Yeah, agree.
So with that one, Johan, when you say push limits, I agree. Push limits. It's the only way we'll find out, the only way we have the stories to tell. But what I'd ask is that you be the one to tell the story, because you could push that limit
that's important.
Someone else and not be the one that's telling the story. Somebody's telling the story about this guy that did this and this happened. So be that one. I mean, there's two elements of fear. There's two sides of fear rather. There's fear that you move forward and fear that you retreat. And the one where you move forward is simply courage. And any step in the right direction is a form of courage, is a form of bravery, is a form of strength. But do everything with sense. There's wildness, there's testosterone, there's all these names that we've given it as we speak about the nature of men, the nature of boys, and that's part of it. The part of it is burning to learn, but be able to tell your story. Let Valance retire. Yeah, correct. That's most important. Correct. So we have the number. We're going to put it at the bottom of the screen with regards to David. If anyone's interested in doing the courses, I hope that by the time you've heard some of these stories, that you will be interested and you will learn and be able to save someone else's life should the case happen. So ask for direction. No harm in that. Within that element, there are other experiences that you can find out, other things, but make sure that if there's one thing that you're around to tell this story and that no one has to risk their life because of some level of ignorance. So this was Lost and Found, Burn to Learn. This is Manhood. David, Valance, thank you so much for coming out, sharing that knowledge. Thank you for being the heroes that are not wearing capes that not many people may know up until today. Like, wow, I didn't know all this was happening. And that I hope that you can go on to teach so that people can enjoy the environment, can enjoy these hikes, and that Valance is able to just sit back and watch more episodes of Manhood.
Exactly.
And chill. and not carnival's a time to free up and you're there asking yourself, I hope I don't get that call.
You're hoping not to get that call.
This is Manhood.
Manhood, brought to you in part by Solomon Bespoke.
You're watching CNC3.
Well, good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. It is Tuesday, the 10th of March, 2026, and there is lots to treat with this morning. We continue to